Go
Okay,
ahead.
actually, we should have an idea about these theories because it explains how a child grows and change physically, mentally, emotionally, and socially.
Absolutely. So, there are so many theories in child psychology, and the main reason, like Sabani ma'am mentioned, it's important to know and understand that because it allows us to fully appreciate the cognitive, emotional, physical, social, and educational growth that children go through from birth into their early adulthood, right? Okay.
So we'll be covering just the few main ones so that we can have a better understanding of the children. We are able to help them better in the classrooms or outside the classrooms. He introduced psychosexual developmental theory. So he said that everyone has something called libido, which is your energy, and this energy is primarily focused on satisfying some kind of sexual needs, even in a child. Something which is pleasurable, something that gives them pleasure. And he associated pleasure of children to erogenous zones. And at each stage, there's a certain area that the child feels the need to satisfy. And once that need is satisfied, they move on to the next stage. If it is not satisfied at that particular stage, then there's something called fixation, which the child will experience. They might have unresolved conflicts and they will show a certain kind of behavior in their adulthood.
Yes, Freud gave total 5 stages, which are called the psychosexual stages. Now, you might think, how is this useful, right? So, I got a client, and this client, I remember, told me that whenever they are stressed, they start thumb sucking. Okay, they start thumb sucking, and since they are an adult, like they're in their mid 20s and they're thumb sucking, that's very unusual for an adult to do whenever they are stressed, right? Now, as a therapist, how I related it, there is something called regression. Regression is a coping mechanism that a lot of people use when they are under stress. It basically means that when you're stressed, you would go back to an earlier stage of life where you felt safe, and you would do something that makes you feel safer, that will reduce your stress. And thumb sucking takes us back to the oral stage, right? So this is how, when maybe a parent comes to you and says, ma'am, बच्चा जो है बेड वेटिंग कर देता है, you know बहुत ज़्यादा करने लगा है आजकल. You know what questions to ask. Is the child stressed? Is there regression happening? Right? And this is just one way in which even just Freud's theory can be used, although there are so many theories, right? Psychosocial development theory is important because for us as teachers, we can definitely, clock in from early childhood to adolescence. And you would notice that whenever, around these times, the children who are not feeling okay, who are showing signs of distress, we can identify that, okay, one of these could be the reasons, because this is the major conflict in this age. Let's say a preschooler, it has been showing symptoms of distress. The parents come and tell the teacher that this child is not behaving like the usual them. Among other things, one thing that we can also explore is initiative versus guilt. We can also use this theory to understand how to reinforce children, how to, make them more active in classroom, because initiating something in the classroom, for example, asking questions, or teacher telling them कि किसी एक बच्चे को टीचर ने मॉनिटर बनाया, so that is what makes them feel important. And if they're not important, they start to feel guilty and they might show signs of distress. So as teachers, we can use this information, A, to identify children's behavior, B, to increase the favorable behavior that we want, right? In school age, maybe let's say after preschool is done, industry versus inferiority is there. Similarly, we can use this information in that age as well. When we talk about adolescence, because a lot of you might be working with adolescent children, identity versus role confusion is not just about work, is not just about career, it is also about sexual identity. Their distress might also come from not being able to identify themselves sexually. Where do they align? There is a whole spectrum. Who are they sexually, right? So that is also something that a teacher can identify. And if you think you're not the right person to talk about that, you can maybe send them to a counselor, right? So this is how we can use the Erikson psychosocial developmental theory. You see how it is so different from the Freud psychosexual theory. While Freud only focused on the sexual aspect of growth, Erikson focused on the overall development, and that is why he gave 8 stages till death, and he mentioned about all the conflicts that happen in those particular age phases.
All right.
Ma'am, I think
Yes,
Erickson's
ma'am.
theory it shows that how the personality of a person grows through lifelong. I think
That's
so, like
Yes,
through
ma'am.
social and emotional challenges that we face.
absolutely, absolutely. For example, if yeah. For example, if let's say in young adulthood, intimacy versus isolation is there, and for a longer time they've not